All right, welcome. This is a quick overview of the basics of Google Drive and Google Apps for Education. I'm going to try to cover what this looks like both on an iPad and on a computer. So obviously when we're looking at the iPad screen like this, it'll be the iPad view, and then sometimes we'll go out to a web browser window. This is Chrome on a MacBook, but it would look very similar in Chrome on a PC or an Internet Explorer or Safari or any other web browser, Mozilla, Firefox, whatever it is you use. So we'll cover what Google Drive and Google Apps look like from both views. Let's begin with the iPad screen. So you can see I actually have a couple of Google Apps visible on my screen right now. Down in my dock in the lower right corner, I have Drive. And then just above Drive in my dock, I have the icon for Google Docs and Google Sheets. From the most recent update of Drive on the iPad, when you go to your Drive and you view a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, you will be brought out to those apps automatically. You can also get an app for Google Slides and other things like that, but whether or not you use those things or want those things is entirely up to you. All the Google Apps for Education are free, so very easy to get and to download. I also use another Google app quite frequently. In the lower left corner of the app screen is the Google Plus icon, another one of those linked Google Apps for Education applications. So I'm going to launch Google Drive in the lower right corner of my dock, and I'm going to be brought to this screen, and by default it usually goes to My Drive. In the top left corner, the three lines, the three horizontal lines, parallel lines, usually means it reveals some other kind of menu. When I tap that, it'll show me other ways I can route my drive. Um, Incoming is what they now call shared with me. So if you're used to the drive saying shared with me, and all of a sudden it says incoming, you might have auto-updated your app without knowing it. If your drive still says shared with me, you're running a slightly older version of the app and you can update it. But it's the exact same thing. Incoming means files that have been shared with you from someone else's drive. The reason that matters, the difference between those things, is twofold. One is storage. Google Apps for Education comes with a 30 gigabyte drive, which means that you have 30 gigabytes worth of storage on drive for any file that you are designated as the owner of. Now, Google Docs themselves do not count. So Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, any sort of Google type of document will not count toward your storage quota. So if you had a lot of Microsoft Word documents or PowerPoint presentations or Excel spreadsheets, and you wanted to save on storage space, one of the ways you could do that is by converting your Microsoft documents into Google documents, and then those documents, the size of those documents would not count toward your storage quota. The second way you can alleviate the burden on your storage is if someone else is the owner of the document, if someone shares it with you. Whoever the owner is of the document, it counts toward their storage quota. Even if you drag the document into your drive, and we'll talk about that and show how we can do that a couple of different ways. If you are not the owner of the document, it will not count toward your storage. You can see who the owner of the document is by selecting information. But we'll see more on that later. All right, so I have my drive, and I have where I can locate other things. Let me go to incoming, and you can see some files are shared with me, right? Go back to my drive. Right? Now, on the iPad, if I want to add to the drive, in the upper right corner, I have the plus icon, and you can see that it gives me the option of a new document, a new spreadsheet, a new folder, or I can upload from my camera roll, or I could even take a picture with the camera or a video with the camera, and it'll go directly to Drive. This is not as full-featured as the web browser edition that you'd see on a Mac or a PC. I can only create a document or a spreadsheet or a folder here. I cannot create a Google form here. I can't create a Google presentation here. I can't do any of the other plugins and add-ons. But pretty good for an iPad. Now, folder is exactly what it sounds like, and you can see I have a number of folders in my drive. Let me show you what it's like to create a document on the iPad. What's going to happen is as soon as I launch this, it's going to launch the Docs app, and you can see that very briefly. There was the blue Docs icon. And it says new document, enter a name, so I'll just call this sample. right? I hope if I spelled it right. There we go, sample, right? And this brings me into a word processor view, right? The upper left corner has the blue check mark. When I'm done typing, I can hit that check button, and then it brings me into the view mode of this, right? Now, the main advantage, why would you create a Google Doc? Again, it doesn't count toward your storage quota, but also collaboration is another reason. So if I wanted to go over to Drive and then share this, I could do that very simply. Up along the top, I also have the ability to add comments, right? Um, Again, if you're collaborating, whether it's with faculty members or with students, um, this is a way you can suggest edits or propose changes or think over things in a draft. Um, it allows me to see who is viewing the document. Now, if I had shared this with a bunch of people, I could even coordinate with them and say, hey, tonight 8 o'clock, let's log on to the document together and work at this. You can collaborate online via Google Documents. There is a search function. It says there find in document when I tap that magnifying glass. All right, I'll hit the X. There's information, right? Now, I was talking before about the owner. You can see down in the lower right corner, it says that I am the owner of this document. One of the things you can do on your PC or on your Mac is you can transfer ownership of the document. You can also see that I have some other options here. I could share this right away. I could start inviting people to collaborate with me on the document. I could get a link to it. Say I wanted to make this a publicly available document. I could publish that link. I could put a link on a website that says, here, go ahead and download my Google Doc. I can rename it. I can print it. I can do all kinds of things. Keep on device also, by the way. These are obviously Google Docs shared on your drive or stored on your drive. But if you want to keep a copy on the iPad so that if you're away from an internet connection, you can still access it, you can do that there. You notice it says keep on device on. If I slid that to off, this document would only exist on the drive. It would not exist on my iPad. Right? Okay, so that's the information icon. And then in the upper right corner, it has view. And when I tap view, I can go to, let me go back to that. I'm in the view mode right now, actually. When I tap into the text field, I go out of view mode and I go into edit mode. All right, so that's what a Google Doc looks like. Let me go out of Docs now and go back to Drive. If I go to Drive and I want to create a new spreadsheet, very quickly you'll see the Sheets app launch. There it is. And I'll do much the same thing, right? And you can see what the Sheets look like. Sheets is like Microsoft Excel. It's not quite as full-featured as Excel. You can't do some of the things that Excel can do, but it's completely free. It's very collaborative and open, and it's very, very flexible. And I'll show you some things in the desktop version of it that are pretty cool. So you might not be able to entirely give up Excel from this, but you can certainly accomplish most things you would do in Excel through here. Same thing, if I tap into the field, double tap actually, I can now edit. I can type in the cell. And you can see that I have different formatting choices up top. Same thing, I can view that little icon of the person. I can see who's viewing the document. I can pull up that information, right? And those are some basics about Google Sheets on the iPad, right? Back to Drive for a second. If I'm in my Drive, one of the things that is very easy to do on the iPad app for Drive, and that you'll probably end up doing frequently, is sharing things. You can see that I have my list of folders alphabetical here. I can go down. Let me go down to some documents. Here I have some documents. Let's choose this PDF, 3500 basic word list. You can see the icon of 2 people next to it. That indicates that I've previously shared this document. If I go to the I icon to the very right of my screen, I can see a preview of the document. I can see its title, and I get a bunch of different things here. And you can see I've shared it with a number of people. I could share more right from there. I can open this into another app. I can do all kinds of things. So the information icon on Drive, also very helpful. All right, let's get out of the iPad and let's go to the desktop version of this same app. Now you'll notice the sample document and the sample spreadsheet are there because Drive syncs constantly. So what I created on the iPad is already there on my computer, and whatever I created the computer will then appear on my iPad just as well. Now, to give you an idea of what I meant by the limitations of the iPad app versus the flexibility of the desktop, I'm in Drive right now. You can see that my web address is drive.google.com. I'm signed into my account. If I go to create over here, sort of the equivalent of the plus sign, I can do way more things, right? I can create a folder like I could on the iPad. I can create a document or a spreadsheet like I could on the iPad, but I can also create a presentation, a form, which I'll talk more about in the next video, a drawing, and then over here I have some other apps I've connected. Powtoons is kind of a fun animated presentation tool. PDF Mergy is exactly what it sounds like. It lets you merge multiple PDFs into one document. But let me show you where these things came from. Down here into Connect More Apps, you can load up a ton of free apps. Some of these you may have no use for at all, but some of them you might find quite useful. There's different things that have to do with automating data or, producing templates for different types of Google Docs, conversion of files, downloading different formats and translating them to other formats. There's all kinds of, and you can see there's many, many applications here. They're all free. They're all part of the Google Apps for Education suite. And, they don't come preloaded because not everybody has a need for them. But you can go through these and find a lot of different options that you can check out. So, like I said, there's just so much to Google Apps. There's no way you'd be able to get all of it into an iPad app. So you can see that, right? One of the other things about, let's get out of this. One of the things about Google Drive is that up above we have a search function here, right? And I can search my drive. Let's just say I'm looking for the word American, right? I can search Drive for American, and that'll return all the different documents I have in my drive that have the word American in it, right? So again, there is a search function on the iPad app as well, but a little quicker and easier to get to on the PC or the desktop version. Also, in this top bar here, there's looks like a keypad on a phone. These 9 dots, right? These load up more apps. And because this is Google, your Drive easily links to your Gmail. It can link to your Google Sites if you have your school website through Google Sites. And there's more, right? Whether you realize it or not, you have a YouTube channel because you have a Google account. You can use Google Translate, Google Maps, Google News, etc. There's more, and you can click and follow, and you can find even more stuff that you can add, again, just as we saw before in the Create button, right? So why would you use Google Drive on an iPad? Why would you use Google Drive on a desktop? Well, the iPad app is obviously a convenience matter because you happen to have your iPad on you. There are things that you can do in the desktop version that are just much simpler than it would be to try to do it on the iPad, or if it's not, maybe it's even impossible on the iPad. One thing is moving lots and lots of files around, right? If I took, all these files are in front of me and I wanted to put them into a folder, it is much easier for me to go down the list and check boxes on the desktop version and then select move to and put them into a folder, right? I can move lots of files around on the desktop version. That's one thing that you might want to do, right? Another thing you might want to do is convert. As I said before, let's do a basic in and out. Here I have a Google document, right? As I said before, Google documents don't count toward your storage quota. But if I download this Google Doc and I want to open it up in Microsoft Word to do something with it, right? If I go to download this, I'll have the option, as it says here, Document 1, Microsoft Word. I can convert my Google Doc to any of these file formats. That's something that I really don't have the option to do on the iPad app. And if I had the other way around, right, if I wanted to upload to my drive a bunch of Microsoft Office documents, whether they're Word or PowerPoint or Excel, over here in my settings, I can go into Upload Settings, and you can see here, It says convert uploaded files to Google Docs format. Um, I could take Word documents and make them docs. I can take Excel spreadsheets and make them sheets. I can take PowerPoint presentations and make them Google Slides, Google presentations. So again, just because you have the iPad app doesn't mean you have to do everything in the iPad. There are many things with Drive and with Google Apps in general that are much easier to accomplish on a computer, whether it's a desktop or a laptop. So that is a brief rundown of Drive and Google Apps. We'll see some more interesting applications of it in the next video.